Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hopefully I don't look ghastly. I feel like I look ghastly. I definitely look ghastly. I have no makeup on. I literally, about an hour ago, finished my first book of 2023, so slow clap for me. I'm gonna go straight on to my second book, and I was gonna wait until tomorrow, but actually I just want to start this book now so that I can just get as much read as I possibly can, because I want to make January a really good start to the year in terms of reading. First reading vlog of the year. I really want to make this the first of many. I feel like I made more of an effort with my channel last year, and I definitely managed to upload more than I usually do, but I want to make more of an effort this year, and hopefully I can do that. So today's going to be a reading vlog. I don't know whether I'm going to do more than just the one book. I don't think I will, but we'll see. I just kind of want to see how much of this I can read, because ideally I would love to get this finished by maybe Saturday, hopefully, and then I can give you my thoughts in like a review at the end of this video. I've just been looking at how other people do their reading vlogs, because I've noticed a lot of people tend to add things that they're doing in between, but I don't really do much. Gonna be honest, I go to work, I come home and I read. Today I'm going to be reading a book that I only discovered a couple of days ago, and I saw it on Amazon because I was like researching for some videos that I'm going to be doing hopefully at the weekend, and I saw this book and immediately I was like, I have to have that. That sounds like a book for me. And that book is Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukafka. Now, I was primarily looking for thrillers or true crime books, because one of my goals for the year is to read more non-fiction again, and naturally I gravitate towards kind of crime and true crime and all of that stuff. And I saw this one, and then obviously I read the blurb and realised it wasn't actually true crime, it's just kind of like a fictional thriller. However, it sounded so glorious and right up my alley that I was like, I have to read this after my current read. That's how good it sounded to me. I have a funny feeling I might have seen this on someone else's channel, but I can't remember. Like, I feel like it's something that I would have picked up and been like, oh, I need to read that. On to what this is about. So essentially what this book is about, it follows the execution of a serial killer, and it basically tells his story. However, it tells his story through the eyes of the women in his life. So one of them is, I believe, his mother. The second one is Lavender, a 17-year-old girl pushed to desperation. I don't know if that's one of his victims, it's possible. Hazel, twin sister to Ansel's wife, and Ansel is the serial killer. And then the other one is the detective, the homicide detective that obviously was on his trial and obviously brought him to justice or whatever. This sounds incredible. I feel like a lot of the time with true crime especially, I listen to two particular podcasts, and I always love it when they bring on the victims of crime, because you don't often get to see that perspective. And it's also one of the reasons that I want to read a lot more true crime novels, because I want to read more from the victims, because I find that their insight is really fascinating. I just think this book sounds fantastic and I cannot wait to read it. It's only about 300 and odd pages long, so I'm really hoping that I can make this a quick read, and then maybe I can have read a book this week by the weekend. Fingers crossed. I don't know if it's going to happen. It might not. But anyway, that's what the book is about. I am super excited. I'm really hoping this is going to be one of my favourites of the year, because it sounds so good and I'm just really in the mood for this. So I'm going to switch off and get reading, and then update you when I've made some progress. Okay, book update. It's now Thursday evening, so I think I started filming, when did I start filming? Tuesday, I think? On Tuesday evening, I think I got 14% into the book. I am currently 40% into it now, obviously Thursday evening, as I said, so I've made a lot of progress. I'm kind of hoping that I can pull an all-nighter and read this, but I might end up finishing it tomorrow. I feel like that's doable. So far, okay, it's a lot different to what I thought it was. So when I explained what the book was about, I don't think I explained it properly. So I feel like I ended up saying that the serial killer story is told through his victims' perspectives, but it's not. It's like his life story told through the different women who he's met in his life. It kind of goes back and forth. So the first chapter, or like every other chapter, is from his perspective, and essentially he's in his cell. It's counting down to the hours or minutes or whatever to when he's going to be executed, and then after his chapter is always a chapter by one of the women, and the first one was from his mum's perspective, which, let me just say, I was gripped. I kept wondering what that fucking noise was, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, every so often, because I'm like, why does it sound like there's a jet or something? It's not loud, but I was like, what is that like hissing sound? It's my computer. I'm using it for the light because otherwise if I put the overhead lights on, it's just too harsh and it looks weird. But yeah, his mum's chapter, I was absolutely gripped. I could not stop reading, and I think on the first night that I started reading this, I had read his chapter and the chapter from his mum, and that's why I read so much, because I was just so gripped by it. I am now reading Safi's chapter. So Safi actually met him when she was younger. They were both in like an orphanage together. You know, he was kind of a weird kid. He dissected animals and all of that stuff, and Safi found out. I obviously don't want to say too much, but Safi does now work on the police force, so I'm guessing it's just going to keep leading up and to the point where they actually arrest him and he gets detained. But there is a slight thriller element to Ansel's story. Ansel is the serial killer. It seems like he's going to try and make an escape. I don't know how he's going to do it, and I don't know where he's gonna go. I mean, I know where he's gonna go, but there's almost a mystery element to this place that he keeps mentioning, which is like the blue house, which I think he keeps describing it as like, it looks like a house, but it's a diner, but he calls it the blue house because it's blue. So I'm really interested to see what that's about and to find out what the deal is. And he's also leaving like a manifesto or like a letter. He says that it's not a manifesto, but everyone's like, it's a fucking manifesto, dude. But yeah, I'm really gripped by this so far. The writing is almost poetic, which I kind of really like it has a kind of whimsical element to it. Some of the paragraphs are obviously longer than others, but yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait. Today I ended up editing my video for the weekend, so I think by the time this comes out, you will have already seen it as my best books of 2022. I'm gonna do some filming over the weekend, I think on Saturday possibly. I am really enjoying this book. I'm hoping that I can finish it. I might even have to add another book into this vlog because I feel like it's gonna be really short otherwise. Okay, update, it's now the next morning. Much to your disbelief, I did not manage to pull an all-nighter. I cannot, grandma cannot anymore. I ended up, I think, finishing off at 49%. And that was it, and I was like, no, I didn't even make it to 50. I woke up this morning and I've started reading again, and I'm 55% of the way in. I am on page 171. There's in total 307 pages I need to get through. So I feel like today is doable. I can do it. First things first, let me just say I'm really confused. I don't know if it's because I'm reading it wrong or what is going on, but I read things and I think certain people are dead and then they're not. So I was reading Ansel's chapter after Safi's, and he mentioned something and I was like, okay, so that person's dead, fair enough. And then I have started reading, well, first of all, I've started reading the mum's perspective again. I thought she was dead, and then she mentioned someone and I thought they were dead and they're not. Anyway, I'm still enjoying it. I don't feel like it will be a 5-star read. I feel like it will be like a good 3-star / 4-star for me. Obviously, I still have a way to go. I'm really hoping I can finish this today. This is not going to be the last update. Obviously, I'll probably have one after this. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm definitely going to finish it today. Famous last words. It's me. Hello, I'm back. It's the next morning. I did not pull an all-nighter. I did not finish it in the night. I mean, technically, some people would say I did finish it in the evening. I got to about, I think it was like 73% in, and I got really tired and I actually ended up falling asleep, which I never do when I'm reading. And I woke up at 12:30, midnight, and I was laying there and I was like, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. And I was like looking for my Kindle because I didn't remember putting it back where I usually put it. And it was right next to my face, so I literally fell asleep reading. I then realised I was a bit more awake than I thought, and I just decided to stay up and finish it because I was like, I haven't got much left and I really want to push through and finish this before morning, because I knew that if I'd left it until this morning, I would have procrastinated, I would have got distracted, and I also really wanted to watch The Menu on Disney Plus. Which, let me just say, that was a good film. I really recommend watching it. It was a really cool film. So I wrote some notes on this because I've always noticed when I do reviews and stuff, or I'm trying to talk about my feelings on a book, I always forget to mention things. So I've just written a bunch of notes, which this is also going to be handy for my wrap up at the end of the month, because I feel like I'm really rubbish at just giving my thoughts on books. So there's that. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I ended up rating it 4 stars in the end. I was kind of in between a 3-star and a 4-star. I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a 5-star for me, just because I feel like there were certain things that I didn't like as much. So the first thing that I would say is that I could probably understand why people might not like this book. I don't think it would be for everyone. I found the writing very poetic, which was really beautiful, but at the same time I felt like in parts it could be a little bit too metaphorical. What are you woofing about? Honestly, as well, I don't know why, but I kind of almost found it reminiscent of The Lovely Bones, which I really enjoyed that book. Although I did find it boring most of the way through, I just thought that the writing was so beautiful and poetic that I really enjoyed it, and so for that reason it reminded me of that. Speaking of boring, I found myself kind of in the middle parts, specifically with I would say the mums chapters, but also Safi's chapters. I kind of found myself getting a little bit bored, and also with Safi's chapters, her name's Saffron, I'm calling her Safi because I think that's what she was called in the book for most of it. I found that it was becoming more of a like crime thriller book, which was kind of confusing to me because I feel like that wasn't really the point of the book in the first place, and I just didn't feel like it was very fitting, and for that reason I didn't enjoy those chapters as much. And the mum's chapters in general, like I found her first chapter really interesting and I was so riveted the whole way through, but then as the book went on I was kind of like, I'm not interested in you anymore, because I don't feel like she really gave anything. I expected a bit more of a reaction from her, and I felt like her whole kind of demeanour was just like, well, I left this boy and now it's not my problem. What I will say is that I feel as if this book was wrapped up really well. I think in the end you're not really given any answers, because I went into this thinking, oh, I'm gonna, you know, see how all of these people feel about the serial killer, I'm gonna see how the serial killer feels, and you don't really get any answers. I mean, you do see how the women feel about him slightly, but you don't really see how Ansel feels, and you're not really given a reason as to why he did what he did, which actually in a way I think is pretty realistic. I don't feel like a lot of serial killers or murderers give any reason as to why they've killed someone. It's more of a kind of convenience thing. It's also sometimes a spur of the moment thing, and in that way I feel like it was realistic, but also I left this book not really knowing how I felt about Ansel. I was in kind of like a grey area with him. We're not really made to feel sorry for him in any way, but also I found myself feeling sorry for him anyway, and mostly I was sorry for the young boy because of what he could have become. One of the things that I would say about this book as well is that if you're looking for a book to use as a discussion topic for a book club, or you're looking for a book to do a discussion on for your channel, I would definitely say that this is a really good one, especially if you're into crime or you're into kind of heavy subjects that you can sink your teeth into and have a discussion over. It leaves you thinking about the death penalty and how you feel about it, but also about how you feel about the idea of rehabilitation. Because one of the things that I will say is that I was left with so many questions at the end of this book, not because it wasn't wrapped up well, but because the whole way through, and especially towards the last half of the book, I just kept wondering, could Ansel have been a good person in the end? Because as much as I think he was terrible and he did terrible things, and obviously he had an awful upbringing, he was left in a really sorry state, which, let me just say, is no excuse. A lot of people have hard lives, they don't turn into shitty people. But it did make me feel like with some of his thoughts and feelings, I don't think he intended to be a bad person. I genuinely think he wanted to be good at some points. There was some part of his brain chemistry that just wouldn't allow that. It leaves you thinking so much, and I feel like it would be a really good discussion topic for a lot of people, for like a book club or a for your book channel. Overall, I really enjoyed this. It's my first 4-star for the year. I obviously will talk about it in my wrap up because I know not everyone is going to watch this book vlog. So I'm not actually going to stop this reading vlog here because I feel like it's really short with one book. So I'm going to go on to my next book, and I'm kind of hoping that I can read it in one day, but I don't think I'll be able to. I don't know, stranger things have happened. I have decided on my next book. I'm going to keep it like a really murdery, you know, mystery type reading vlog, I think. Maybe I'll just call it, I don't know, deadly reading vlog or something. But the book that I've decided to pick up because it's short is Penance by Kanae Minto. This is a book that I have on my Kindle. I've had it on there for a while. So I read a book called Confessions by Kanae Minto back in 2021 and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of like a crime thriller book, and after I read that, because I enjoyed it, I just immediately added Penance because I was really hoping that that would also be a book that I would enjoy. So I'm just going to rattle off what this blurb says. A tense-chilling story of 4 women haunted by childhood trauma. When they were children, Sai, Maki, Akiko and Yuko were tricked into separating from their friend Emily by a mysterious stranger. Then the unthinkable occurs. Emily is found murdered hours later. Sai, Maki, Akiko and Yuko weren't able to accurately describe the stranger's appearance to the police after Emily's body was discovered. Asako, Emily's mother, curses the surviving girls, vowing that they will pay for her daughter's murder. I just love the idea of this book. I really enjoyed Confessions, so I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be the same for me. But yeah, that's what I'm going to read next. It's like 200 and something pages long, so it's not too long. Again, I'm hoping to read it in a day, but I'm not sure. But I will update you guys when I've done some reading. I have been reading for an hour and I've just finished the first chapter, which means I've read 43 pages. Because the chapters in this book are really long, and I am 20% in, which, oh my god, that's really good going for me. I wasn't too sure at first whether I would be into this because I've looked online at the pronunciation of this particular name, and I'll look at the rest because obviously I did pronounce it earlier. And I was just going kind of with what I thought it was, but I found a couple of different pronunciations, so I'm not sure, so I'm going with Say. And I've just read her chapter. Hers is essentially like a letter to the mother of the child that got murdered, and let me tell you, I wasn't sure at first because I was like, there are too many similarities so far to Confessions. There's not a load of similarities, but there was like one particular one and I was like, oh, don't tell me that the murder is potentially the same, because in Confessions the murder, I'm pretty sure the murder took place in the school. And the same happens in this book as well. It takes place in the school. So I was sitting there and I just kind of thought, oh, I really don't want to read a book that has too many similarities because it just feels like the same plot being recycled over and over again. However, let me tell you, that chapter had me so freaking gripped. It got to the end and I was just like, oh my god, revelations have happened. I'm excited. I'm on the second chapter now. I'm not going to be able to stop reading this. I have to say, Kanae Minto knows how to write a good fucking book. Let me tell you, if you want to read outside of, you know, Western literature and stuff, and you want to try and diversify your reading and read a book from someone from a different culture or country or whatever, and you like thrillers, try Kanae Minto. Definitely try Confessions first, because that book, wowzers, had a lot of ridiculous plot twists and it was insane. But this feels like it's going the same way. I'm excited to see where it goes. I honestly, when I read the first chapter, honest to god, I thought I knew where it was going. I was like, you know what? I think I've guessed who the murderer is already. I was like, I've got it. I know who it is. I know what's happened. I don't know jack shit. Here we are. Okay, this might be my last update for today because I don't know how much more I'm going to read. I've literally just finished the second chapter, which takes place in Maki's point of view. So essentially all of these chapters are going to be in a different girl's point of view, like as they've gotten older, so they're adults now. But essentially all of these girls feel like they owe this girl's mum penance, which let me just say, these girls were like 10 when this Emily girl was murdered, and her mum has gone off for one and just been like, you're all to blame, you murdered her, you didn't, you know, it was all yours fault. They were 10. What did you want them to do? They were fucking 10. And this woman has made these young girls feel so bad for their whole lives that now they just can't live a normal life. And all of them feel terrible that they can't remember the face or what this guy was wearing, and they feel really bad that he hasn't been caught. And I'm just like, this woman is so toxic. I'm sorry, as bad as it is that your daughter is dead and she was murdered and obviously sexually assaulted, why are you taking it out on the 10-year-old? What about the guy that murdered your daughter? But like, I mean, so far I'm really enjoying it. The only thing that I would say, and I don't know if this was a problem that I had with Confessions, I can't remember, and I'm not sure whether it's because it's been translated, but I feel like the book in some aspects is a little bit too wordy. Like, there are so many sentences that I feel like could be whittled down, or different words could be used, and I feel like that might be a translation issue. I'm excited to see where this goes. I really want to see how it ends, because Confessions really ended on such a like bang that I'm really excited to see where this one goes. Because I mean, even that first chapter was really good and honestly had me gripped, so I'm excited to see where this goes now. But this might be my last update, I'm not sure. I'm getting a little burnt out, so I'm probably gonna sort the dog out, do my dinner and watch a show or something on Disney Plus or Netflix, just to wind down a little bit and do something other than reading, and then I might read my book a little bit this evening, but I very much doubt I'm going to finish it today. I don't know why I said I could finish it in a day. It obviously wasn't ever going to happen. It's now 2 days later and I finished Penance yesterday, which, let me just say, I read that book in 2 days. I want a round of applause because 1, I am a slow reader and I get easily distracted, and 2, usually if I read a book and I find it boring, I fall asleep. So I need a round of applause for that, because honestly, I didn't rate this very highly. Now, I read Confessions by this same author in 2021 and I absolutely loved it, so I really wanted to enjoy this book in the same way. However, I just didn't. So I ended up rating this one 3 stars. It has a similar vibe to Confessions in the sense that it gets told from different people's perspectives. However, it doesn't have the same sort of revenge plot, which I kind of was expecting considering how the blurb was written. This book is told in the girls' perspectives. However, at this point, they're young women, they're living their lives, they're kind of in their mid-20s onwards, and they're kind of separated because they don't really talk to each other anymore. After the murder, they just kind of went their separate ways. Now, the first thing that I'll say is that I found the perspectives a little bit repetitive and boring. I was really riveted when I read the first chapter. I was just like, oh my god, this ended in such an explosive way. I'm really excited for this book. I think I'm going to really enjoy it. However, after that, I just found that's where the repetitiveness began, because all of these women recount what they did on that day and what happened, and essentially you already know all that stuff anyway, because you've been told like 5 times already what happened, and each woman starts at that point where they're playing before the murder and then it leads up to the murder and then they talk about what happened afterwards. In that way, I just found it really boring, and honestly, I don't think I'd go so far as to say I would DNF it, but I definitely just didn't find it as enjoyable as Confessions. I felt like that book kept me on my toes all the time, whereas this one just didn't. I also found this one completely anticlimactic. Confessions was so explosive and amazing, and I would highly recommend you go and read that one if you want a good thriller. But this one, if you're expecting to go into it and you think that you're going to discover who the killer is, which, let me just say, spoiler alert, you do, and there's going to be like this whole justice thing or this whole seeking revenge thing, none of that happens. It's just these girls recounting what happened, and then you get to see what happens in their lives afterwards. And the plot just seemed a little bit too unbelievable to me. The mum in this needs to seek a psychiatrist's help, because she blames these 10-year-olds for her daughter's murder. And I'm like, first of all, blame the murderer. I don't want to spoil it, but all of the women end up in some sort of crime situation. Which, in what world? In what world? And another thing is like, the mum ends up having, and I don't know if I should spoil this. It's not a major spoiler, but the mum has a link to the murderer, which isn't spoiling it. You can go off in any tangent and think what you want with that one. And I'm like, did you not think about that before you blame these girls for your daughter's murder, or are you just crazy? She's definitely a crazy bitch. I felt like it was so disappointing because when I read that first chapter, I was like, this is going to be a 4 or 5 stars. If this carries on this way, I'm going to love this book. It just didn't pack the same punch as Confessions did. And again, I would highly recommend Confessions, but I don't think I'd rush into this book. But overall, if you've read Confessions and you're expecting to go into this with, you know, a massive revenge plot and, you know, something with really explosive plot twists or whatever, just go in with an open mind. Don't think about any of that and see whether you enjoy it. But in my opinion, it wasn't as good as Confessions, and I wouldn't go as far as to say that I would DNF it because I don't think it was that bad. But I definitely found it a bit of a snooze fest most of the time. But anyway, I ended up rating this one 3 stars. It was okay, and I'm glad that I read it just to kind of get another book in this month. But honestly, I was left a little bit disappointed and I just found it overly anticlimactic. Anyway, that was my pretty murderous reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you've read either of these books that I read in this reading vlog, please leave a comment below, let me know what you thought of them. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel to see more content from me, and until the next video, I will see you then. So bye guys.